Welcome back to T&K Sports Talk, everybody. We are going to be continuing our division by division breakdown series this week. We're going back to the AFC after we did NFC last week. And as you can see from the teams behind me, we're going to be tackling the AFC West. Got a lot of talent, a lot of youth, a lot of promise in this division. And I think there's a pretty clear favorite, though. And that would have to be the Kansas City Chiefs, just with the amount of talent that they have. So let's knock out the best first. What do you think about the Chiefs, Kev?
What can I say about the Chiefs that has been said by every single mainstream sportscaster on the planet? I mean, if there is a division that is already decided here in August, it's the AFC West. You know, there would have to be some serious injuries and some serious problems for Kansas City to relinquish this division to anyone else that really doesn't have the capabilities of matching up to them in a divisional race. I mean, sure, like once you get to actually facing them, the Raiders have shown that they can, beat the Chiefs on occasion, and, division games are always a toss-up. But if you're talking about a division race, I really don't think anyone, aside from, maybe Los Angeles, if Justin Herbert takes that next leap, can compete with the Chiefs. And even if he does, it still won't be enough. It's still Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I mean, 3 players in our fantasy league draft. Thank you, everyone who is participating in the draft, by the way. It was a great draft last night. But 3 Chiefs players went in the first round of a 12-team draft. I mean, what does that say enough about a team where we're going to be looking at them as, I don't want to say the next Patriots team, because, I mean, that much dominance by New England over a 20-year span will not be repeated. It just won't happen. You know what I mean? It's just, if there's another team that's lined up for dynasty, it is Kansas City. If they win another Super Bowl, they'll be in that early Patriots territory where every year that conference runs through them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if really everybody stays healthy, I think it is going to be at least, I don't know if it's going to be 20 years like New England, because like you said, that's a lot. But I mean, they're already on track for it, winning AFC basically every year with Mahomes. And Mahomes is still insanely young. Now, the only thing is, everybody says Mahomes and Andy Reid. Who knows how many years Andy Reid has left. But I think luckily with the Kansas City Chiefs is Andy Reid is so good at developing coaches underneath of him that go on to be head coaches that, if Andy Reid wanted to walk away from the team after this season, which I don't think he's going to, but, Eric Bieniemy could take that job, or one of the other assistants on that team could take that job, and Mahomes would still lead them to the Super Bowl. I mean, it is a pretty easy coaching gig when you have Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Edwards-Helaire, who I think is going to be, wanted him in the draft. Of course, he went right before me. But I like the offense. And if you would have asked me a couple months ago, they kind of had me worried right after the Super Bowl. You could see that going into that Super Bowl game, most of their offensive line was out, and without an offensive line in front of Mahomes, nothing against Mahomes, obviously, nobody could, but it's so hard to do anything on offense. And then they come out and they cut Eric Fisher and they cut Mitchell Schwartz, and it's like, okay, well, now that offensive line that you had in the Super Bowl was basically your offensive line. But how they were able to trade those draft picks for Orlando Brown, somehow convince Kyle Long out of retirement, give a whole bunch of money to Joe Thuney. Like, now they went from having one of the worst offensive lines to they might arguably have the best offensive line in football next year. They also drafted Creed Humphrey, I think in the second round, who the best healthy center in the draft because everybody knows Landon Dickerson's better, hopefully. But it's the amount of talent on that offense, there's no defense in the league that has any chance of slowing it down.
Yeah, because eventually Tyreek Hill will get loose, at least a couple times a game. One will at least always be a touchdown, and the other one will be to at least set up other scores. And there's so few teams in the NFL that can match that, or at least stop that consistently enough to stand a chance. I mean, I know we save it towards the end of the episode to make a record prediction, but I really only see Kansas City losing maybe 2 games this year. The only thing that held them back last year was that poor offensive line, like you had just explained. I mean, now that they have fixed that, and they still have all those weapons that you also mentioned. I mean, who's really gonna beat this team? I mean, I predict they lose at least 1 game in this division, whether it's to the Chargers or the Raiders, like they've been known to do on occasion. But other than that, I really don't see anyone that can go toe to toe with this team when they're protecting that type of a quarterback and have all that firepower. I feel like this offense is so much more deadly than the Patriots offense when they were dominant. Because, I mean, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. No one will ever top his records, his resume, what's left to be unsaid. But I feel like this offense is more deadly. The quarterback's not more deadly, but the offense is. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I really only see them losing 2 games.
Yeah, I don't really see them. I think 2 is probably a good number, but really, I know a lot of the players on the Chiefs right now are saying, we're going to be the first team to go 17-0, 17-0. I don't think they're going to go 17-0 because maybe if it was still 16 games, maybe, but the thing that does help their case, I feel like, is, some of their wins last year, which, a win is a win, but some of their wins last year were, not the prettiest and stuff. And people were saying at the time, they're a little, caught up after they're winning the Super Bowl and stuff. But I feel like after kind of being embarrassed in the Super Bowl, coming out, you're having fans again, and they're super motivated to not only show people that they're better than from the last time they saw them on the field, but also they're motivated because I can tell they want to be 17-0. And so that means they should know I cannot take a single day off if I want to be the first 17-0 team. So if they really are all motivated, working hard, practicing hard, Reed's coming up with good game plans and everything, it's going to be very difficult if they wanted to do it. But like you said, usually wait to the end, but I see them probably losing 1 game. I don't know if it's going to be, I think it could go one or either 2 ways. I think they could either lose 1 middle of the season, whenever, but also if they're 16-0, I know they really want to be 17-0, but they'd obviously have such a landslide for that number 1 seed. Definitely bench their players. I know the players would probably fight that, and they'd be like, we want to, but just being smart, you can't take that risk of playing Tyreek Hill to try and go 17-0, and now he tears his ACL, and you don't have him for the playoffs when it actually matters. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But moving on from best team in the division to what I think will be the worst team in the division does not make them a bad team. I just think this division is really, really competitive and will not produce a bad team, and that's the Denver Broncos. I feel like this is a team where they're slowly working their way back up to being a good team again. I mean, the defense last year was absolutely atrocious. I mean, they were only 20th and 21st in sacks and takeaways. I mean, you think about a Denver Broncos defense the past like 5 to 10 years, they were always in the top 5, top 10. But I mean, now you get Von Miller back. He missed most of last year with COVID related issues and then just being hurt. And then you also never knew who the quarterback was. That was a big issue for Denver. And I feel like this year they finally get it figured out a little bit. Right now in preseason, it's still open competition with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Me personally, I really like Drew Lock. I feel like he is serviceable for what the Denver Broncos are trying to do. The Broncos are trying to finally build around a quarterback instead of, John Elway. He likes signing those age-old quarterbacks and just handing them the keys and, asking them what they want. But I really like Drew Lock. I feel like they've actually handled his situation well. When he came out of Missouri a couple years ago, he was very well established with his career, but he was still very raw in terms of reading a defense and knowing when to get rid of the ball. And I feel like the past couple years has been really good for him. He got some experience last year coming in and showed some flashes of that potential. And, a lot of people get lost on, people want Drew Lock to be like a top 10 quarterback. He doesn't need to be, because Denver's MO for years, even when they had John Elway, was backed behind their defense. Denver loves playing defensive football and keeping games 17-10 and not having to do a whole lot and win games by any means necessary. That's how they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. It was one of the ugliest Super Bowls you could ever watch, from at least the quarterback position, from Cam Newton being a disaster and freaking Peyton Manning like never throwing the ball. But I feel like Denver is on the right track now. I really, really like what they did in the draft. They took one of the best corners in the draft. Some may even argue the best corner in the draft, Patrick Surtain. I mean, we all saw the highlight of him picking off the Vikings in the preseason and taking it to the house. That is exactly what he is going to do. We saw it for years. The corners, they had Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, there for the Super Bowl run. I feel like Patrick Surtain is going to be that next line of corners and great secondary. Not to mention you have Justin Simmons back there, one of the best safeties in the league. So their secondary is really not looking bad, and their defensive front is finally returning after an off year. So I feel like Denver may be in last, but it does not make them a bad team. Like, I can honestly see this division, the AFC West, last place is finishing, just under 500. I really don't see a bad team in this division. I really don't.
Yeah, I think all 4 teams do have a lot of talent. I actually do not agree, though. I don't think they're going to be finishing last in the division. I think the Raiders will be, but we'll get to them then. But like you said about Broncos defense, like so many years, it's been such a dominant force, and that's what has really helped them. And if you want any chance of winning this division, you're going to need a good defense, because you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Justin Herbert, and the Raiders, a good team, but especially known for their offense more than their defense. So having a healthy Von Miller back to go with your Bradley Chubb, and like you said, drafting Surtain, who, I don't think he's going to lock down Tyreek Hill day one, but, if anybody's going to slow him down on that Denver team, he has the best shot at it. They also went out and signed Kyle Fuller from the Bears, who's been one of the top-rated corners. So it seems like they are really kind of trying to build their defense around knowing what they have to go up against with the passing attacks that are in their division. And that's kind of why they sets them apart for me from the Raiders. Is, to me, the Raiders defense was pretty bad last year, and to me they didn't really do enough this offseason to try and fix that. But with the Broncos defense, to go along with their offense because they have so much young talent and potential on that offense. They used a high draft pick last year in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, and they had Melvin Gordon, and they drafted Javonte Williams out of North Carolina, who's rated pretty high in fantasy too. And like Noah Fan and Cortland Sutton, like there's so many young players, skill players on that offense that as long as between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, if one of them can take the ball and get them in the hands of their playmakers, that offense is going to be plenty good enough to go along with their defense. So I think they are a pretty good, well-rounded team. I know they were in, I don't know how much they're actually looking since they traded for Teddy Bridgewater and everything, but I know we touched a little bit about Deshaun Watson already in this podcast. But like Denver, to me, is definitely one of the teams that is a quarterback away, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Nothing against Teddy Bridgewater, but like if they would have got Aaron Rodgers, where there was rumors about that earlier this offseason, I would immediately put them as AFC favorites, in my opinion. But if Deshaun Watson, if that thing clears up, and Broncos could somehow trade for Deshaun Watson, I think Broncos would absolutely be contending with the Chiefs for the AFC and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The only reason why I did have the Broncos last is solely because of the quarterback position.
Yeah.
It was the great John Madden who once said, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. You know what I mean? Like if they are that quarterback away, and I know I just said I like Drew Lock, but he's still that young quarterback where he's not going to win you a lot of games. He's not going to be able to keep up with high-powered offenses that the AFC is loaded with. So that is the only reason why I picked Denver, because to finish last, because they are just that quarterback away. Once they get that quarterback, watch out, because that team is going to be very dangerous with the wide receiver prospects and then building up that defense. I just don't have a lot of confidence this year with the Denver Broncos at the quarterback position. That is the only reason why I have them last. The only reason.
Yep. And another thing to add is I really like what the Denver Broncos did this offseason when John Elway finally realized that, hey, maybe I'm not the absolute best at building rosters, and went and signed George Patton from the Vikings, and now they actually have a general manager. I think I'm sure Elway still has a whole lot to say, but to bring in an actual general manager that has the experience that Patton does, I think that was a great move for the Denver Broncos moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. John Elway for many years had too much power. I mean, sure, he won a Super Bowl for the Denver Broncos, but that was once upon a time, and since then, he really lost control of what makes a really good football team. You can't just rely on one side of the ball to win your games forever.
Absolutely. And when you give a whole bunch of money to Brock Osweiler to try and win you anything, no.
Yeah, no kidding. One of the worst contracts handed out in quarterback history, easily. I mean, sure they got out of it, no problem, whatever. But wow, that was awful.
I can't necessarily blame him at the time, because at the time, when Peyton was out, Brock Osweiler did look pretty good in those games. But man, was that a mistake.
Yeah. Once he was shipped out to Houston, it became clear that he was carried by the rest of that Broncos roster. We can tackle anytime I see the logo, I want to call them the Oakland Raiders, but they've been in Vegas for almost the whole 2 years now. Come on, let's get it together. But we get on to the Las Vegas Raiders. That just sounds so wrong, but I'm not too high, but not too low on this team either. I feel like John Gruden is really trying to take care of the culture, and general manager Mike Mayock is really trying to build something here. But I just really feel like they're stuck in neutral right now. I mean, I love me some Josh Jacobs at the running back position. I feel like within these next couple years, you're going to be talking about him being a top 3 running back in this league. I really feel that strongly about Josh Jacobs. But the problem lies for me is with Derek Carr. I mean, like, I have nothing against the guy. Like, he's a good quarterback, but that's all he is a good quarterback. And until John Gruden falls out of love with Derek Carr, they're just only going to be a good team. And that's it. They're always going to be the team floating around second, third place in the division, no higher, no lower. You know what I mean? And Derek Carr, like, I don't want to say he's the one that's holding this team back because, you know, aside from, you know, having a really good connection with Nelson Aguilar last year, boom, 1 year, Aguilar's gone to New England. And, you know, Derek Carr, you know, the entire stint he's had with the Raiders, they've really struggled giving him weapons to throw to. I mean, and Derek Carr has his own issues as it is. Like, he's nowhere near a perfect quarterback. But I just feel like Oakland's Las Vegas. You see what I did? I did it again. But Vegas's main issue lies with their offense, aside from Josh Jacobs. I mean, I really like it was a bit of a reach, but if your guy's there, you got to take your guy. Alex Leatherwood, their new offensive tackle, is going to be a stud for the Raiders. I feel like he was one of the most underrated tackles in the draft. I still wouldn't have taken him where the Raiders did. But for years now, since Gruden and Mayock got together in the draft room, they do not draft best player available. They always go by need. And Leatherwood was their biggest need. Leatherwood was easily one. I think he was the best run blocking tackle in the draft last year at that spot. So that's where their thought process was. You know, their offense is going to run through Josh Jacobs. So why not give him an elite offensive tackle? If he can develop properly, then you might be building something. But right now, it's another team where I'm not too confident in the rest of the offense.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think Oakland, I did it too.
I did it to you.
Las Vegas, they're not a bad team or anything. Don't get me wrong. But to me, like, there's no doubt that Oakland, oh my God, I did it again. That Vegas has talent on the offense. You know, Josh Jacobs, I did like the signing that they signed Kenyon Drake. So then, you know, in the regular season, you can, you know, take some of the carries so he doesn't have as much of a workload. Darren Waller, you know, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kind of, I think Denver's better in this aspect, but Vegas also is good in their wide receiver room with young prospects. Like you have a
Henry Ruggs, and
you had Hunter Renfrow, who I think it was just yesterday said, you know, forget his exact words, but he was saying about going up against Jalen Ramsey and practice every day, and he was like, yeah, I'm having good games against Ramsey, so you're going to watch out for what I do to every other DB and stuff, which, you know, who knows what he's going to do. But they do have some young guys like that at receiver who if one of them can definitely step up and play, the offense is going to be real good. They kind of did another thing, kind of like Kansas City too, where they kind of rebuilt their offensive line a little bit, got younger. They, you know, traded Rodney Hudson, and I think Richie Incognito is finally out of there, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he is.
And he's been in the league forever, man. But like, I think their offense is pretty good. I like Carr, but you're right. You know, he's good. I don't think Carr is ever gonna, you know, go out and.
He's never going to be great. I think he's always going to be a good quarterback, but good in the AFC, especially in this division, is not going to get you anywhere.
Absolutely. And the thing that worries about me too is, like, I think the Raiders, their offense is going to put up some points this season, but I don't see a single player on that Raiders defense that has any chance of slowing down Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert. I don't see it. I don't.
Yeah.
So if that's why I kind of put Denver ahead of them, because, a couple guys on Denver's defense has a chance of slowing down something and making some noise, but Tyreek Hill is just gonna, eat against Oakland or Vegas, and so basically they're gonna be one of those shootout teams. They're gonna put up a lot of points, but the other team is too. So they're gonna be winning games, I think, like 35-32. Like, they're not gonna be blowing out teams, but they're gonna.
But they'll lose a lot of games because they still don't have that much firepower to put up the 25 to 30 a game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really like Henry Ruggs and Darren Waller, but I really only see Hunter Renfrow as like an elite slot guy. I feel like you really need to get a solid wide receiver number 2. And I feel like in next year's draft, Vegas is going to take care of that. Next year's draft, you have the likes of the Clemson wide receiver, Justin Ross. Justin Ross was supposed to be a top 20 pick in this past year's draft, but he got hurt and chose to stay Clemson. A smart move, because now he's the top rated wide receiver in next year's class. And then you have, I can't think of the other guy's name, but there was one other guy who I'm absolutely in love with right now in the college ranks. But I feel like Vegas.
Alabama?
Yeah. That's
John
right.
Nesby, I think it is.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
I feel like Vegas definitely really needs to solidify that wide receiver number 2, and maybe think about taking a flyer on a mid-round quarterback. There's going to be a lot coming out, but I feel like for Derek Carr to take that next shot, you need to threaten him with his job and then see what he can give you. You know what I mean? Because we see it all the time with these types of quarterbacks. They know that their job is not in jeopardy, and they're a little complacent. They feel like they don't have to push so hard. Of course they want to win. Of course they want to compete for championships. But if they know that their team isn't going to go anywhere, I'm sure there's a sense of at least some complacency within that quarterback room. So I feel like you need to at least threaten Derek Carr a little bit. At least tell him, like, look, like, especially, this is John Gruden we're talking about. He'll get right in your face and tell you off. I feel like you really need to get in Derek Carr's face, take a mid-round quarterback and say, look, you either need to show us this year that you have something that we haven't seen before, or that guy's going to do it. So pick your choice. Show out or get replaced.
Yeah, I agree. Because when you have Mahomes and a Justin Herbert, who are both very young still, and
Denver's on for a quarterback. Yeah.
And Denver's gonna eventually find somebody, maybe, at least maybe they hope. But a Derek Carr in a division like that, like, I'm not saying Derek Carr is bad, but when you have 2 Ferraris in your division, your Honda Civic is not gonna beat them. So,
damn.
like, and then Denver has a bicycle. They don't even have a car. Oh, I didn't even see what I did there with the car.
We'll just pretend that you did that on purpose, all right?
Yeah, let's go with that.
But yeah, speaking of another young quarterback, man, I love me some Justin Herbert, man. I mean, I think the Chargers are well on their way to finally finding something. For years they had Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers, someone always has an opinion on it, but I'll put Phillip Rivers as a Hall of Famer. It just won't be right away. He'll have to wait for a while, but you had a Hall of Fame quarterback for so many years, and with him came Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson and, guys like that. And, nothing came of it, because they were in the same conference as Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They could never get over that hump. But right now, their hump is in their division. You know what I mean? So if they can develop this young quarterback, Justin Herbert, who has a lot, and I mean a lot of promise. I think he's easily going to take a great step forward this year. I could not be more high on a quarterback outside of the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. That's our guy. I could not be more high on a quarterback outside of Jalen Hurts than I am with Justin Herbert. I just feel like there's something there. Something special is in Justin Herbert to where, even if he, follows the same path of Phillip Rivers, where like it doesn't result in a Super Bowl win, I feel like he's going to be another Chargers great quarterback. For a long time, the Chargers were worried that, what's going to be the transition from Phillip Rivers to then what? Now what do we do? They lucked into Herbert. He's a terrific young quarterback. I mean, we saw it last year. He went toe to toe, score for score with the all-time great Drew Brees. I mean, if you are a rookie quarterback and you stand punch for punch and go the distance with Drew Brees in the Superdome, you can't tell me there's not something there in that young quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons. I would compare him to, a Drew Brees myself. Much taller. Herbert is much taller than Drew Brees. I think he has like maybe 3 or 4 inches on him. Drew Brees was only like 6 foot. But I mean, you see how they throw the ball. You see their release points. You see how they can throw to any point in the field. And he just has so much confidence in Mike Williams that no other quarterback would show. You know what I mean? Mike Williams on the Chargers went from average wide receiver to unbelievable prospect in a season with a new quarterback. And I feel like that says a lot for where the Chargers are headed. Is Austin Eckler still on that team?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And you factor in, he can dump off a screen and make his life that much easier. There's so much that Justin Herbert has to his luxury already as a young quarterback that Phillip Rivers didn't have. There was so many, I know I mentioned LaDainian Tomlinson and, Antonio Gates, but that's a tight end. Again, no disrespect to Antonio Gates by any means. He's one of my all-time favorite players, much less all-time great tight end. I just mean when your main focal point of pushing the ball down the field is your tight end, that's not going to get you anywhere. You know what I mean? And that's why the Chargers were never able to get over the hump. And, Herbert still has a great veteran in Keenan Allen. I'm sure, the injury concerns are always going to be there. Allen has, a long injury history, but the past couple of years, he's really overcome that. And what better way to give your young quarterback confidence than an elite veteran wide receiver that has still got it? I mean, I feel like the Chargers will definitely come in second in this division, but we talked about it earlier. They're not going to get close to Kansas City because they still just don't have enough. No one in this division has it for Kansas City.
Yeah. I can't say enough good things about Justin Herbert. I think they are a good bit. They have more team building to do, in my opinion, before they can really. I see them as they could probably make the playoffs this year, but I don't think they would go very far if they did. I think
maybe one and done.
Kind of both sides of the ball, I think they could use a little bit more work. But Justin Herbert, what he was able to show last year, he's definitely going to be one of the quarterbacks that even if Los Angeles, and speaking of name things, took a while for me to stop saying San Diego. But for Los Angeles, even if they are one of those teams where you say, man, they really wasted so-and-so's career by not putting any talent around them or anything. I hope that's not the case in LA, but I think Herbert is one of those quarterbacks that even if that is the case, he will be good enough to lead them maybe into the playoffs at least every season. Like he sits really, like you kind of said about Denver, when you don't have famous quote, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't even have one. there's no doubt that quarterback is by far the most important position in the game of football, and arguably all of sports even. But like, you're not winning anything if Super Bowls or anything if you don't have a quarterback. That's the biggest thing that you have to find. And Los Angeles found that. So that's a huge step in the right direction.
Hard part's done. You have your QB.
And then to be able to have weapons like Mike Williams and Austin Eckler and Jared Cook he's getting older, but he's still a good tight end.
Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see Hunter get another shot, but
yeah,
I understand
absolutely.
the injuries were just too much for LA to keep up with. So whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. But he does have some weapons to throw it to, and that's not even counting Keenan Allen, which I think if Keenan Allen stays healthy and plays every game this season, we might be looking at the leader in receiving yards. I think Allen is incredibly talented, and also you can kind of see with how that team is built, like Austin Eckler. He's not I like Austin Eckler, but he's not, you're not going to give him 20 carries a game. Like, he's going to be that, maybe 10 to 15, and then you throw him a couple screens and a couple check downs to him. So they kind of have the running back for a pass-heavy offense. So I have a feeling that they're going to be very pass-heavy. I think Herbert is going to have a lot of yards. I think Allen will probably be his favorite target. But more about Herbert. We usually make our hot takes on TNK Sports Talk. I don't know how hot of a take this is. I don't think it's going to be this season, but I'm saying in the next 2 to 3 seasons, Justin Herbert will have an MVP trophy.
An MVP trophy. Okay.
An MVP trophy. I want to say Super Bowl MVP as well. But with that team right next to them, yeah, it's too hard.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, it's tough to make a hot take in this division, man, because I mean, there's so all 4 of these teams, have a good nucleus to work with, but just need that one more thing, aside from Kansas City. But I mean, there's no way that I really don't see anyone in this division having a top 10 pick like Denver had last year. I don't see it.
No.
But yeah, I say we make our record predictions for this division.
Yep. So I'm obviously going Kansas City, winning the division. I'm going 16-1. I think they're only going to lose 1. Then I'm going to go Chargers, second in the division. I'm going to go with an 11-6 record.
Okay. You stole my record for them. That was exactly where I was going.
Nice. And to be honest, I think it's going to be 11-6, and they're going to be one of the teams where all 6 of their losses are within a touchdown, single possession game.
Yeah, I really don't see the Chargers losing games by a lot of points. I really don't.
No, neither do I. Then I'm going Denver, number 3. And I'm going to say they're going to go 9-8. And then we're going to go Raiders, number 4. They're going to be real close, but I'm going 8-9. As it turns to the Raiders having a winning record this season.
I gotcha. So our records are very close. I'm going to go with Kansas City with a 15-2 record, with a loss outside the division and then a loss to the Chargers. I feel like those are going to be their only 2 losses on the year. I feel like someone outside of the division is going to catch them on an off day, because when you have division games, it's tough to win them all. And then you go outside the division, someone's watching from afar, like someone who you wouldn't expect, we see it every year. Someone catches someone on a bad day, and then there's an L. But I'm going 15-2 for the Chiefs. Then 11-6, much like you for the Chargers. I feel like if Justin Herbert takes that next step, they easily have a nice winning record and get into the playoffs easily. I feel like the team is good enough to win those games and propel them into the playoffs. How far they go, don't know. We could see them in a playoff game against, say the Browns or someone like that, on wild card weekend. But then I'm going to go Raiders third in the division with a 8-9 record. I feel like they're, I just said Derek Carr is the problem, as well as their defense. And when those two things are your issues, could be in for not a bad season, but not a good one either. But then I'm going to go Denver with a 7-10. They're going to win some games with some young promise with Drew Lock or whoever they use at quarterback. But after finishing 7-10, that will trigger the Denver Broncos. Then they will pick a quarterback, and we'll be right back here talking about how Denver could be second in the division or someone like that. Denver is so close, but they need a quarterback, and I feel like they finish under 500 because Drew Lock, I like him, but he's not going to win you enough games. And that'll trigger John Elway to no extent, and he'll make a move and kick Drew Lock to the side like he does every other quarterback.
Yep, exactly. And you know what? He likes his older ones too. And Aaron Rodgers seems like he's staying in Green Bay, but who knows what's going to happen next offseason?
Yeah.
He might be sitting in Denver. Man, could you imagine a division that would have a Patrick Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, and an Aaron Rodgers in it? I think you'd have to say best division in football.
Yeah, I think you could easily make the case for that right now. There's only a couple things wrong with, a couple of teams. Other than that, this division is loaded, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But all right, man. I think it's time to wrap this up here. We can kick it on out and see these birds take the field. Tonight is Eagles versus Patriots. NFL preseason week 2, we get to see the debut of wide receiver Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him play, but I'm nervous at the same time. Don't tweak anything.
I hear you. He's good. But until next time, we want to thank you all again for tuning in this week. We'll be right back next week tackling an NFC division. If you want to see us tackle a very specific NFC division, you may comment down below. And until then, I want you all to stay safe. Have a good week. And we'll see you right back here.
Yep, have a good week. Thanks for watching. And just a thanks again. I know Kevin said it earlier, but thanks again to everybody that participated in the T&K Sports Talk Fantasy Football League. Every team's looking good out there, and we're excited to get that underway.
Hell yeah, man. Go Birds.
Go Birds.